Greetings and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Welcome to another Shadow Era video. As promised, I'm back, and in this video, I'm going over my Shadow Era best decks, top 5, November 2019. So that's patch 3.71. Now, of course, as patches come out, this list will change, and this list isn't a final list. People have their own tweaks and their own variations, but this is my opinion on what the top decks currently are in the game, or at least the top theme of the decks in the game. So I'm going to start off with number 5, that being Zana Mist. Now, Knight of the Crimson Dusk and Adler the Just were both nerfed recently in past patches, but this deck is still very strong. Zana, I would say, does not have a weak matchup, but she also doesn't have a strong matchup. I feel like she's just that hero, that deck that you pick when you're unsure of what to bring. So you want to bring one that isn't going to be an auto loss to any particular deck, and I think this deck does just that. So we start off, we notice that there aren't any 2-cost allies in the deck. Zana's hero power isn't going to help you hold board, so we're not going to bother worrying about early board too much. But we also don't want to get raffle stomped in the early game either, and I think Retreat really covers that 2-cost ability. If you went second, just play Retreat and bounce their ally off the board. 3-cost allies, we got Priest of the Light and Devoted Knight. Early game, that Devoted Knight is definitely the one that you want. When it dies, you get the extra resource. Priest of the Light, if you don't have Devoted Knight, is okay to play early too. You get the extra health. You'll reduce their shadow energy by 1, therefore delaying their usage for another turn. So that's also good to play. You can also just drop a Book of Curses early too. Make all their allies have 1 less attack. We also have Tainted Oracle and Wizened Staff as main draw, both of them 4-cast. And as mentioned, Knight of the Crimson Dusk for the ally. This is a real good sustain card. It also goes well with Wizened Staff. Like if you're trying to get some burst damage on the hero, you can just attack one of their allies, take some damage, and get that boosted attack on Knight to go for face. We have Visca, another one that's good for a quick hit too on the board. And our 7-cost allies, we have Nathanius and Adler. I don't mind having extra fatties in a Zana build, because Devoted Knight is giving you extra resources on top of what you're doing. For tech, we got Focused Prayer. Only 3 of them here, because I wanted to I didn't want the deck to get too big, so and I wanted a Mass Purification to deal with warriors I may come up against. That's staple Tidal Wave. Don't leave home without it if you're a priest. And Resurrection. So Resurrection won't get your Devoted Knights back, because they go straight to your resource pile. But this really helps in the long game. Right, so if you're spending tidal waves early on, you're killing your allies too, so you can really whittle them down and then play Resurrection later to get your allies back. Particularly good, especially with Nathanius. Make sure you have Nathanius in your graveyard too before you use Resurrection. Now we move on to number 4. My number 4 is Medea. Personally, I think Sticky Medea is still a really good deck to use. I don't have anything for turn 2 besides allies in here, so I keep a couple in there. Mass Bandit, very sticky early ally. People don't like to attack into it. I put a couple of Fate Breakers in there too. So that's going to be additional warrior tech, or even hunter tech, so they can't get gambits out. Just a couple of them there, so that's 6 allies there for 2-cost. For allies, we got Death Mage Thaddeus, Eternal Troll, again, part of the sticky theme, and Tempest Runebearer, also a sticky ally in this deck because it does survive your supernovas, and it gets buffed by by Medea's ability, your spells. Thaddeus buffs it. It's just a really good ally in this deck. And then Phoenix Oregon, naturally. Comes right back after a Nova. For draw, we have Sacrificial Lamb that you can use on your Troll or your Oregon. Break a crippling blow, whatever need be. You also have Bad Santa. Generally, you try to play Lamb earlier, Santa later to finish the game, but you're going to use what you need to use. Then we got our Burn Spells, Fireball, Lightning Strike, Supernova, and we got a Leyline, with just 1 Leyline Nexus in there just in case. I was like, I don't like to have a deck with none. So Yep, still performs pretty well. If you saw my fire theme Medea build, I actually think that might be coming close with the right tweaks. That fire theme deck could actually be a little better. Just the fire theme, you need to be a bit more controlling on the board. That's why that has Shadow Bolt, and this has Lightning Strike, because you want to do more face damage with this deck. So, moving on to number 3, I have Badou, and this is a Bobcat Badou. This is not an Undead Badou. I don't like Undead Badou because of Harbinger. You could try Devotee with Badou, with Undead Badou instead. You're just not going to be doing as much face damage early. And it's going to be harder to get that damage going. Badou doesn't like to wait too long to deal damage, so I didn't like that part either. Harbinger, you can see the cards that are in this deck. You can easily lose your gambits, easily lose weapons playing Harbinger, and I don't like that part about Badou. So more often than not, Harbinger itself can actually lose your game, and that's not a good thing to happen. So I like this Bobcat build. Only 12 allies listed. That's Trapper, Bobcat, and Spotter. Spotter's only a 1-attack ally, but that's there for the double attack. Bobcat, very good to haste in. Very easy to haste in with Pack and Extra. And Krugel Trapper. The only thing Trapper's pulling in here is Camouflage Foe, but that also counts as another ally. Helps whittle down the deck more to find what you need. Going from there, we also have Here Be Monsters. Badou's ability doesn't care about the resource costs of his weapons, so keeping the resources low is actually a really good thing for Badou. We have Hunter's Gambit, which is both draw and some extra control. And I do like to throw a Shadow Font into a Badou deck. Like, use your ability and they immediately destroy the weapon. That feels bad. So if you have a Shadow Font in hand, ready to use, then you can just pull back another weapon. Going from there, we have our Stun Turret. Again, I like having one of those. It can be pretty annoying dealing with like a Kion or a Moonstalker Stealth. So I have Stun Turret in there to deal with those passive abilities. 2 Night Prowlers. That's actually a really strong finishing tool. You don't believe how many times I've seen people just concede right out of the game after doing a double Night Prowler attack. 1 Soul Seeker, mainly if we are dealing with an aggro deck, or if we're taking a lot of damage in a particular game, like if we have to really go heavy on the board with Badou. 2 Grundlers double, and then 4 Crossbows. I think Crossbows are really the big one here for Badou. Going from Badou, we come to number 2 from my list, being Lance Shadowstalker. This should not be a surprise to any of you vets out there playing right now. Lance is really strong right now. This is pretty similar to most builds that people are playing. Although for mine, I actually like having 4 times Rabble Rouser. And that's because most of this deck is rogue allies, with the exception of Eris and Nathanius. So Rouser really does a lot for controlling the board for Lance. So we have 2 costs, that's Skilled Ironmonger. Generally good rogue ally, especially pairing with your Ankle Breaker. Then we got 3 Night Owl and 3 Sword Thieves. Draw and extra control. We got Tainted Oracle. Okay, I lied about Eris and Nathanius, but is Tainted Oracle really an ally? It's more just a draw engine. But we got 4 Tainted Oracle. Then we have Dahlia. Needless to say, you don't want to use Dahlia on Ankle Breaker if you can avoid it. You want to use it on Dagger of Unmaking. But if you have to use it on Ankle Breaker, then you just got to do what you got to do. We got Eris, Nathanius. Nathanius is going to pull a lot of allies in this deck. 26 out of 39 are allies. And then Oliver Fagan. Generally preferred to play if you have a big hand, if you can haste it in. But again, it's also another control ally on top of that. So then we have 4 Retreat to have some extra early control. Anarchic Looting is what I like to use here for tech. Since we don't have Ill-Gotten Gains, we don't have to worry about destroying our own draw engine. You might have to destroy your own Ankle Breaker, so generally you try to use your Ankle Breaker on an ally first, so you can disable one, and then use the Looting if you have to use it. And the Ankle Breaker and Dagger of Unmaking as mentioned. So I actually think this is a really strong deck. The Dahlia is mainly there to deal with any potential like Brax, Kion, also annoying to deal with. So Dahlia is there to really help with those annoying allies. And then my number 1 hero right now that I have is Boris. Also should not be a big surprise. Now my deck is going to be a little different. It's probably a little different than some other people are using right now. I think people cut down some Marksmen and Plunderers to add War Giant Nathanius, and you're more than welcome to do that. You know, like I said, this is probably more of a mid-range Boris whereas the War Giant Nathanius Nanaya version is like a late game Boris. So you can tweak it to your heart's content. So in this case, Laerian Knight, just a really good early ally to have. Alden the Brave, staple human ally at this point. Braxton Weaponsmith, even in Boris, I really like it. 4 Marksmans, 4 Plunderers, and then my Nanaya. So Crippling Blow is what I have instead of Retreat. Crippling Blow to go with Marksman primarily. We have Bad Santa to help us pull our Blood Frenzy if we need it. We've got 2 Smashing Blows and an Enrage. Now, Boomerang I put in here because I feel like after you've whittled down your weapons, like because you never know RNG how your draw is going to be in terms of drawing weapons. So I like to have a Boomerang in there, that way Weaponsmith always has value. Spectral Saber is also for mainly mirror matchups. It's also a good card to pull with Plunderer. You know, it's only got 2 durability. You don't have to slap a couple of times to get it out. And then you have a 3 attack weapon that you can pull at any time with a Plunderer. Gemstone Javelin. Only 2 of them I think you only really need in this deck because you use it and then you can use it again with Plunderer for extra control. So 2 of those. Same thing, Dragon Tooth, 2 of those. Can pull it back with Plunderer if you need to kill real quick. Yeah, so if you want to try out the later game Boris and you want to make a change to that, I would take out 2 of the Marksmans and 2 of the Plunderers, add in 2 War Giants and 2 Nathanius, and that'll give you a late game Boris version. So that's what I have for my top 5 decks right now for this patch in Shadow Era. Let me know if you guys have other tweaks of these builds that you like to use. Like I said, there's several variations to Boris. I've seen variations to Lance. So let me know how you guys think about that. And if you want to see other heroes, I do have a more enhanced version that adds a few more decks that didn't quite make the top 5, but I still think are very strong decks. And I probably will add that just so that once new players decide, hey, I've been playing these decks for a while, I want something different. I think I'll end up doing that video at some point as well. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video of my Shadow Era Best Decks, Top 5, November 2019. Thanks, see you next time.